Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina, Part 6, in which all our protagonists find the thin veneer of tranquility in their lives, tested by family and friends, with farcical and tragic consequences. Chapter 6. During the children's tea, the grown-ups sat on the balcony, talking as if nothing had happened, though they all knew very well, Sergei Ivanovitch and Varenka especially, that something important, though negative, had happened. They both experienced an identical feeling, similar to that of a pupil after failing an examination, staying in the same class, or being expelled from the institution for good. Everyone present, also feeling that something had happened, talked animatedly about unrelated subjects. Levin and Kitty felt particularly happy and amorous that evening, and the fact that they were happy in their love contained in itself an unpleasant allusion to those who wanted but could not have the same, and they were embarrassed. "Mark my words, Alexander won't come," said the old princess. Stepan Arkadyevitch was expected on the train that evening, and the old prince had written that he too might come. "And I know why," the princess went on. "He says that a young couple should be left alone at first." "But Papa has left us alone." "We haven't seen him," said Kitty. "And what kind of young couple are we? We're already so old." "Only if he doesn't come, I too will say goodbye to you, children," said the princess, sighing sadly. "Well, what is it to you, Mamma?" Both daughters fell upon her. "But think how it is for him. You see now." And suddenly, quite unexpectedly, the old princess' voice trembled. Her daughters fell silent and exchanged glances. "Maman always finds something sad for herself," they said with these glances. They did not know that, good as it was for the princess to be at her daughter's, and useful as she felt herself there, it had been painfully sad for her and for her husband, since they had given away their last beloved daughter in marriage, and the family nest had been left empty. "What is it, Agafya Mikhailovna?" Kitty suddenly asked Agafya Mikhailovna, who stood there with a mysterious look and an important face. "About supper." "Well, that's wonderful," said Dolly. "You go and give the orders, and I'll go with Grisha to hear his lesson. Otherwise I'll have done nothing today." "That's a lesson for me." "No, Dolly, I'll go," said Levin, jumping up. Grisha, already enrolled in school, had to go over his lessons during the summer. Darya Alexandrovna, who had studied Latin with her son while still in Moscow, had made it a rule when she came to the Levins to go over the most difficult lessons in arithmetic and Latin with him, at least once a day. Levin had volunteered to replace her, but the mother had heard Levin's lesson once, and, noticing that he did not do it in the same way as the teacher in Moscow, embarrassed and trying not to offend him, had told him resolutely that it was necessary to go by the book, as the teacher did, and that she had better do it again herself. Levin was vexed both with Stepan Arkadyevitch, who in his carelessness left it to the mother to look after the teaching, of which he understood nothing, instead of doing it himself, and with the teachers for teaching children so poorly, but he promised his sister-in-law that he would conduct the lessons as she wished. And he went on tutoring Grisha, not in his own way now, but by the book, and therefore did it reluctantly and often missed the time of the lesson. So it happened that day. "No, I'll go, Dolly," And you sit. We'll do everything properly, by the book. Only when Stiva comes and we go hunting, then I'll skip. And Levine went to Grisha. Varenka said the same thing to Kitty. Even in the happy, comfortable home of the Levines, Varenka was able to be useful. I'll order supper and you sit, she said, and got up to go with Agafya Mikhailovna. Yes, yes, they probably couldn't find any chickens. Our own, then, Kitty said. We'll decide, Agafya Mikhailovna and I, and Varenka disappeared with her. What a dear girl, said the princess. Not dear, Maman, but as lovely as can be. So you're expecting Stepan Arkadyevitch today? Asked Sergei Ivanovitch, obviously unwilling to continue the conversation about Varenka. It's hard to find two brothers-in-law less alike than your husbands, he said with a subtle smile. One all movement, living in society like a fish in water. The other, our Kostya, alive, quick, sensitive to everything, but the moment he's in society, he either freezes or thrashes about senselessly like a fish on dry land. Yes, he's very light-minded, said the princess, turning to Sergei Ivanovitch. I precisely wanted you to tell him that it's impossible for her, for Kitty to stay here, that she must come to Moscow. He talks of sending for a doctor. Maman, he'll do everything, he'll agree to everything, said Kitty, vexed with her mother for inviting Sergei Ivanovitch to judge in the matter. In the midst of their conversation they heard a snorting of horses and the sound of wheels on the gravel of the drive. Before Dolly had time to get up and go to meet her husband, Levine jumped out the window of the downstairs room where Grisha studied and helped Grisha out. It's Stiva, Levine shouted from under the balcony. We finished, Dolly, don't worry, he added, and like a boy went running to meet the carriage. Is, ea, id, ejus, cried Grisha, skipping down the drive. And somebody else. Must be Papa, Levine cried out, stopping at the entrance to the drive. Kitty, don't go down the steep stairs, go round. But Levine was mistaken in taking the one sitting in the carriage with Oblonsky for the old prince. When he got close to the carriage, he saw beside Stepan Arkadyevitch not the prince, but a handsome, stout young man in a Scotch cap with long ribbons hanging down behind. This was Vasenka Veslovsky, the Shtcherbatskys' cousin twice removed, a brilliant man around Petersburg and Moscow, a most excellent fellow and passionate hunter, as Stepan Arkadyevitch introduced him. Not put out in the least of the disappointment he caused by replacing the old prince with himself, Veslovsky gaily greeted Levine, reminding him of their former acquaintance, and, taking Grisha up into the carriage, lifted him over the pointer that Stepan Arkadyevitch had brought along. Levine did not get into the carriage, but walked behind. He was slightly vexed that the old prince, whom he loved more the more he knew him, had not come, and that this Vasenka Veslovsky, a completely alien and superfluous man, had appeared. He seemed all the more alien and superfluous in that, when Levine came up to the porch where the whole animated crowd of grown-ups and children had gathered, he saw Vasenka Veslovsky kiss Kitty's hand with an especially gentle and gallant air. Your wife and I are cousins, as well as old acquaintances, said Vasenka Veslovsky, again pressing Levine's hand very, very firmly. Well, is there any game? Stepan Arkadyevitch turned to Levine, having barely had time to say hello to everyone. He and I have come with the cruelest intentions. Of course, Maman, they haven't been to Moscow since. Well, Tanya, there's something for you. Get it from the back of the carriage, please. He spoke in all directions. How fresh you look, Dolenka, he said to his wife, kissing her hand again, keeping it in his own and patting it with the other hand. Levine, who a minute ago had been in the merriest spirits, now looked darkly at everyone and did not like anything. Who did he kiss yesterday with those lips, he thought, gazing at Stepan Arkadyevitch's tenderness with his wife. He looked at Dolly and did not like her either. She doesn't believe in his love. Then why is she so glad? Revolting, thought Levine. He looked at the princess, who had been so dear to him a moment ago, and did not like the manner in which she welcomed this Vasenka with his ribbons, as if she were in her own home. Even Sergei Ivanitch, who also came out onto the porch, seemed unpleasant to him in that sham friendliness with which he met Stepan Arkadyevitch, whom Levin knew that his brother neither liked nor respected Oblonsky. And Varenka, too, was disgusting to him, with her look of a sans-nitouche, as she made the acquaintance of this gentleman while all she thought about was getting married. And most disgusting of all was Kitty, the way she yielded to the tone of merriment with which this gentleman regarded his arrival in the country, as a festive occasion for himself and everyone, and particularly unpleasant was the special smile with which she responded to his smiles. Talking noisily, they all went into the house, but as soon as they all sat down, Levin turned round and left. Kitty saw that something was wrong with her husband. She wanted to snatch a moment and talk to him alone, but he hastened away from her, saying he had to go to the office. It was long since his farm affairs had seemed so important to him as they did right then. It's all a holiday for them, he thought. But these are no holiday affairs. They won't wait, and without them, life is impossible.
If you enjoy this format, please leave a like and subscribe and return tomorrow for the next chapter.